This podcast is supported by Sobi, but please be aware that the opinions, recommendations and views are based on personal and independent experiences on living with haemophilia. Medical decisions are always to be discussed with a healthcare professional.
Hello and welcome to Rich and Jay's podcast on living with haemophilia in young adulthood. I'm Rich.
And I'm Jay, and we are both living with haemophilia. We will be taking a look at the impact of the condition on work, university and personal goals.
I think it's a really interesting topic to talk about and broaden haemophilia from beyond just the kind of clinical impacts to actually think about the kind of more socio-economic kind of aspects of how haemophilia interferes with life. So again, we've got some kind of questions from the community, and people have sort of sent in messages and things that we'll have a chat through and offer our expert feedback on. But I mean, I guess we can just have a little bit of a chat as well. And so I suppose to start, I mean, how much does your haemophilia kind of affect your work or your studies on a day-to-day basis?
So it has affected my work a little bit. So I work in retail, and usually I get to just sit at a till and just serve for most of my days. However, the static movements can be quite impactful on my body.
Right, yeah.
Having to sort of twist and scan the product, then twist the other direction and do that for like an hour or two before I get a little respite to allow my body to stretch to make sure that I don't have a bleed. Because obviously there might be like a 100-gram bag of rice, which is nothing, but then there's like a 3-kilogram bag of pasta,
that'll do it.
So to like protect my spine and my upper body, which I need to use quite a lot, as you know, in day-to-day life, my work have been quite good at making reasonable adjustments. So at work, I now work in departments where I don't really need to have that often a break from doing simple tasks like that. My body's a lot more free and it's not stuck to static movements, which obviously helps quite a lot to prevent any repetitive strain injuries. What about yourself?
So, I work in research, so most of my days is sat behind a computer, quite comfortably. Physio always tells me that I need to sort of get up off the chair and move around a little bit more. My work's been great. It's very, very flexible. I can work from home a lot, which is really handy. So if I do have a bad ankle bleed or bad knee bleed or a bad hip bleed or anything that affects mobility, I can I've got my laptop with me and I can just rock up and sit on the sofa and carry on working. There's no which is nice, but there's no escape, there's no respite. You keep working, which is good. It's a distraction if you are having a bleed, and it's nice that it doesn't interrupt.
That is really nice, because obviously, as I mentioned, since I work in retail, when I'm off, I'm off. I can't go to work, which sometimes can be frustrating because I actually quite like my job. But the idea of being able, if I could, to do stuff at home would be amazing. Because then at least that way I'm still getting to do what the job is, as long as I like my job, that is. I mean, how does it work for you with, like, I guess, sick leave and stuff like that? Have you ever had any uncomfortable conversations with managers where they've said, no, you've been off sick far too long, or anything like that? I have had quite a fair bit of managers not understanding, which is always annoying. However, the best thing that I can do as someone who has it is to explain how frustrating it can be having this condition and having people say, oh, well, you don't need to do that. It shouldn't take this long and all that type of stuff, where they don't know how it works, which, is frustrating. So to educate is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself, having haemophilia. So knowing your condition and knowing how it affects you is really beneficial for yourself. I would definitely say.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been lucky that I've had managers that have been very understanding and sympathetic. But I think with haemophilia, it's often the the sheer amount of time it takes to recover, people can't quite grasp. Especially the kind of recovery, rebuilding of joint strength. People are very sympathetic for the first couple of days, and then it kind of like, oh, are you still ill? Like, when are you coming back? Like, is it still bleeding? Like, well, no, it's not. I'm not sat at home gushing blood out of my joints. That it's internal, it's invisible, and I think people really kind of struggle with that, and the kind of longer impact and longer recovery period that it can take, and the fact that you might be able to go back, but you might be kind of limited in your capacity. People expect you to be kind of on or off 100% or nothing. And I think your haemophilia often results in this much more reduced capacity. You're still able to do stuff, but not to that same enthusiasm or energy. And you can feel guilty, like of neglecting your colleagues, of letting people down.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's been times where I've probably gone back to work a little bit too sooner because, like you, I enjoy my work and enjoy the people I work with, and I don't want to let people down.
Yeah.
And I think it can be a real challenge to have that confidence to actually say, no, I'm sort of 75% better, but I need another day or two, rather than going back at 75% or something, and then ended up rebleeding, setting yourself off again, and actually just triggering something that then takes another week. Or I've had stuff where I've maybe gone back on a Thursday or Friday and then wrecked my ankle again for the weekend, and then had a rubbish weekend myself because I've been trying to go back to work.
Yeah, because you push yourself.
But then, I guess the other facet to that is that it's also the pressure of there's rent to be paid, there's bills to be paid, and I find it very challenging sometimes when my doctors, my clinicians, are like, oh no, you need to take 2 weeks off, and it's like, I physically can't. The project needs to be done. I've got deadlines. Mm-hmm. I've got a career path that I'm trying to follow and pursue and be the best that I can be and get to the next stage of my career.
Yeah, we have lives to live.
Yeah. So I think it's sad but true that maybe your doctors need to think about actually the how does this condition affect people's economic aspects of their lives and their jobs. And I think maybe because again haemophilia's changed so much since maybe perhaps a lot of doctors originally, some of the specialists particularly, maybe trained and understood haemophilia, where people perhaps weren't able to work as much, or you had to have very different kind of jobs. But for young people like you and me, the haemophilia's managed so well that we're actually able to lead fairly normal lives, and that careers that whatever we want to do, we can do. Because that's something I remember being told as when I was younger is think about a career where you can have haemophilia.
Yeah.
And certainly that has influenced the kind of the career path that I've developed,
Absolutely. As you were saying, I remember having that same chat with my paediatricians.
Yeah.
And yet here I am studying to be a professional actor.
But that's amazing.
Being physical, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I would never want an office job. I mean, to pay bills, yeah. But it just doesn't suit my timetable, sadly. Yeah. Where retail does.
And how have your kind of clinical team been with you wanting to pursue this kind of career in acting? Have they been quite kind of facilitative of it, or have they thrown up barriers and challenges? Have they tried to sort of be like, okay, Jay wants to do this. How are we going to make it possible for him? Or is it more like, right, okay, we need to talk Jay down off this ledge because otherwise he's going to wreck his knees?
Well, thankfully, my centre have been really supportive.
That's brilliant.
Of both that and when I started my weight loss journey too. It wasn't a case of, oh, are you sure you want to be going to the gym and doing X amount of hours and doing these different types of classes? They were there to support me with my choices, even if they were the wrong choice, because at the end of the day, I was going to make it anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously it's better to have them there to support me through that, opposed to them saying no, me going ahead and doing it anyway, and them having to support me.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had the better outcome of it, thankfully. So that helped majorly for me anyway.
That's really good. I think, and I'm glad that haemophilia care is maybe moving in that direction of supporting people to, be their best selves, do whatever they want, rather than this perhaps more historic, paternalistic kind of, no, you've got these options, the others are completely off limits.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure even as a kid, they're like, oh, you should probably try and avoid that for your joints.
Yeah.
But even then, like nowadays, people, especially physios, are saying be more active, go to the gym, run, exercise, do weights to strengthen the muscles. To make you less prone to having a bleed. Yeah. Which I think is it's flipped the table.
Yeah. Because I think for our generation, the kind of problems that we're going to have isn't necessarily bleeding. It's going to be the long-term damage from our joints, which most of us got as kids. So actually, but the kids of today, the generation Z of haemophilia, to borrow a term from a friend, will kind of really hopefully not inherit those kind of problems.
Yeah, which is quite exciting with how haemophilia medication has progressed over the years and how it will continue to progress as well. Yeah. It's never ending.
Yeah. I mean, there's what, eight years between us, and I think even the kind of the difference in experiences that we have is quite telling how much things have changed in terms of what people are encouraged to do, and to think kids that are younger than us are going to be able to do. It's really inspiring to see how that continues to change, and I think the kind of millennial haemophiliacs are going to be quite unique in hopefully being inspired by younger people to sort of see what we can really do, having kind of been through that weird phase where there was still a little bit of nervousness, still a little bit of trying to well, no, just wrap yourself in cotton wool, be safe, to now see where people are like, no, if you want to be an Olympic swimmer or cyclist or whatever, and it doesn't have to be that kind of sport mentality.
Yeah. It's quite nice when charities have youth ambassadors, for example, because it gives younger children a role model to look up to that's maybe 10 to 20 years on top of them, that they can be like, oh my God, I want to be like them, because they get to live this life with their condition, and it's not holding them back from doing cheerleading or doing acting or whatever it is, which is quite exciting, especially for a younger child who hopefully isn't still being told, oh, what are you thinking about doing when you grow up? Getting an office job? Yeah.
And I think, as you were saying, there's a kind of need to diversify those kind of role models, because I remember, on the one hand, you'd be told, oh, don't do this, don't do sports, you can't get an office job, make sure you do all this. And then on the other hand, it's like, oh, look at this example of a world-class Olympian. And it's like, well, hang on, how it's kind of almost a double standard. And I think, it's really nice to actually see a more diverse sort of kind of people within the haemophilia community that you can look up to, that, you can be fit and healthy, but without having to be an Olympic class athlete. There are multiple ways to kind of live a good life with haemophilia, to be healthy with haemophilia. There's not just these two extremes. And actually, it's really up to the individual and what they want to do, not this kind of you either can or to the max, or you can't at all.
Yeah.
In terms of your work, how do your managers know? Do your colleagues know about your haemophilia? How did you kind of have those conversations initially?
So initially, the people that needed to know knew. That was it. Yeah. And then as it was going along, sometimes I'd be at work and I'd start to feel a bleed coming on. Right. You know that sensation. Yeah. You can just feel it, and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. What's wrong? And then that's when I'd like speak up, say, hey, I think I'm bleeding somewhere. Can I please inject so I don't have to spend a week rehabilitating, because I don't want that. There's been instances where I've been at college and I'm like, oh, I can feel something. Do you know what? I'm going to treat now. That way I don't even need to worry about it. Boom, take the medication out of my bag. Boom. Wow. Inject. Done.
So where would you do it? Would you just crack it out in public, or would you try and find a sort of quiet room to do it on college? Or
thankfully at my college, we had a get to know each other session. Right. And my immediate to go to was, hi, I've got haemophilia A. Here's a little bit of background on that. And so everyone in my class knows that I have it. And since we're all actors, anything goes really. So no one is like, oh my God, what is he doing? I can't believe he's doing that in class. What? It's very open, so I can just take out my medication and inject. So I'm more than happy to do it in public, because I usually have people being like, oh my God, what are you doing? Can I watch? Which I always like that sort of education part of it, because then it's giving them an insight of what I'm doing, usually behind closed doors. But if it was somewhere like on a train, God no. It's not safe. With all like the jerky movements.
So we've had some questions sent in and comments from the online haemophilia community, which I think, just to say, it's really nice. I think having these kind of haemophilia community spaces online, I certainly find it really supportive. And again, from being a kid and being like the only haemophiliac that I knew, to having this huge online community of people you can kind of share experiences with. But anyway, yes. So we've had some questions sent in. So the first one says, I've just finished university and will be starting my first job in IT next month. I'm quite nervous and wondered if you had any advice on how to approach the topic of haemophilia with my new boss. I would like my new colleagues to be aware of my condition, but don't want it to affect any relationships or hold me back in my career. Do you have any advice?
I would say have an open discussion with your manager about it. Be prepared with the facts and know what you're talking about, because that will put them at ease when you're saying, I have this condition, because there's a great chance they won't know what it is. You being confident in what you are saying and knowing what you are saying will put them more at ease, and it'll make you feel more confident in what you're saying too.
Definitely. I think haemophilia is one of those conditions that a lot of people have heard of. I think, I don't know if it still is, but when I was young, it was used in like GCSE biology as the kind of example of X-linked inheritance and chromosomes and stuff. So people have heard of it, and they heard that people with haemophilia don't stop bleeding. And that's they have this kind of imagination of haemophilia that, oh God, if you get a paper cut, will you die? Like, oh yeah, definitely, no. So you kind of have to like talk people down a little bit and actually be like, no, it's actually really boring as a condition. Like I don't bleed more, I just bleed for longer, and actually most of it is internal. But I kind of empathise and relate to this question, because this idea of, I don't want it to affect any relationships or hold me back. I've sort of had the similar kind of concerns and worries, and particularly some of the kind of field work that I do when I've been sort of doing research on farms and stuff, and basically working on a farm. Like I totally know that if I told the people that I'm working with, then they wouldn't want me doing certain things. They wouldn't let me use any of the sharp objects and tools, which is the fun bit. There's all these photos of me with axes and knives and things that my haemophilia clinicians don't get to see. They definitely don't happen. But I totally know if I said to the guys that I was working with, all right, so I have this condition, they'd be like, right, okay, you need to go and do the safe jobs, and that's not fun. So I think it is quite a challenge to kind of reassure people, but still be able to do all the aspects of the kind of activities and jobs that you want, and not just get, again, this kind of relegated to a safe, wrapped in cotton wool environment. And I think, like you're saying, it's about being confident and being able to challenge people and supply them with the knowledge to be like, look, it actually doesn't affect anything. I take my medication. I have my medication with me. It's really not going to change anything. Yeah.
So another question is, I'm quite open about haemophilia in the office, but have come up against a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions amongst my colleagues. I often get quite angry and frustrated when I hear an incorrect comment about my condition, but don't want to cause a fuss and make a big deal about it. Have you ever experienced the same thing? And if so, how did you overcome this?
So it's kind of almost what we were just saying about this kind of misconception of haemophilia, and, oh, you're going to die from a paper cut, or, oh, is that why you have a beard, because you can't shave? And it's like, I have a beard because I'm really lazy, and also being a hipster's kind of cool. But yeah, I've heard this from doctors as well, that, oh yeah, all haemophiliac men have beards because like shaving's too risky. What? I mean, that's up there with some of the myths.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
I mean, I think beards are just fashionable. Like, get over it.
Hey, they can be, yeah.
What do you think about that one?
I think that it's understandable that you get angry and frustrated, but there is no need, because yes, you may be open about your haemophilia, but depending on what the other person picks up or what they already know isn't what you know, so you shouldn't be offended by that. Yeah. That's where you should be taking that time to reassess and say, hey, okay, so you don't know actually what my condition is, let me tell you.
Educate, don't hate.
Exactly. With the more education you can give about haemophilia, the better it'll be for you and for the people that work around you. So again, an office job, you're stuck in a particular position all day. If you were to have a bleed and you didn't really notice it, someone else might actually be able to say, oh, your head, you're not like doing something that you usually do, like when you get up, you look like you're in pain or something, which you might not even realize. Which I find with myself sometimes at college, I might have a little bit of a limp, but I don't notice. And then people are like, Jay, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, why? Have you noticed something? Like, yeah, you've got a bit of a limp. I'm like, oh, do I? Oh my God.
So I think what you're saying about building a community of people around you that can kind of help support you is really great.
So there's never any need to be angry or frustrated, because you have control of the situation to say, hey, this is my condition. This is what you need to know.
So thanks for listening in. I think that's all we've got time for right now. But join us again, and we're going to be providing some tips and sharing experiences of managing the condition in other aspects of life.